you're feeling powerful. That's what we want to do. And that's just because you put it on. Now, once you start engaging with the brand, you can activate your mind and spirit at the same time that you just activated the physical part of you.
What else can we expect from Municipal in 2024?
We're going to do the municipal version of the gym, premium experience. And our first one of those is opening up in Las Vegas. You know, leadership to begin with is lonely. Whether you're in a giant place or a small place, it's lonely.
Hello, and welcome to the Sayva Spotlight, an entrepreneurial podcast that interviews founders and CEOs of some of our most exciting business partners. Today we'll be chatting with Harry Arnett, co-founder and CEO of Municipal. Municipal is an apparel and footwear company co-founded by Harry Arnett and Mark Wahlberg in 2019 that specializes in premium sport utility gear that is designed to make you look and feel unstoppable all day long. Their goal is to inspire people to bet on themselves and make big things happen. They are driven by the core values of character, hustle, positivity, creativity, and believe that no dream is out of reach if you're willing to put in the work. Visit municipal.com for more information. And now we'll kick it back to ourselves for the interview with Harry. Hey, Harry, thanks for joining us today on the Sayva Spotlight.
Johnny, you're the man. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. So, Municipal, apparel company, really taken off in the last couple of years. Let's talk about how did this all start? And, give me the origin story.
It kind of began, I have a million ways of sort of describing like where Municipal came from. I'll give you the semi-truncated version if it's even possible. But I met Mark Wahlberg more than a decade ago. I was an executive in the golf industry. Mark is kind of famously a rabid golfer. So we met through golf, remained connected and friendly. And we're always talking about brands, life. Of course, I would pepper him with health and wellness questions constantly. And he was going through, at the time I met him, a lot of the same types of things, at least mentally and emotionally, that I was going through. Because Mark and I are very similar, Johnny. We're a lot of people mistake us for the same, they come up to me like, "Hey, Mark." I'm like, no, I'm not Mark. I'm Harry. But he and I are about almost the exact same age, family, career, balancing that. And of course, as we started to get into our middle-aged, the health part, starts to become really, really important, and more than just physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. So those three things really started to dominate like our conversations. And a lot of people too will think, oh, Mark's always been so dedicated and regimented around his those three things, spiritual, mental, and physical health. And he'll be the first to tell you that it really wasn't until the last like 10 years or so that he started to put all those things together and get a lot more mindful about it. So we were really talking about those themes and the desire to create something that would not only make the best products in the world, would make really cool products, create really cool experiences for people, but at the same time, by virtue of connecting with the brand, we could serve as sort of a partner through that journey, self-discovery, and really pursuing your full potential as a human being, as a father, a husband, a wife, mother, brother, member of the community, career, all those things that are really important. And we kind of decided, I'd say maybe 6 or 7 years ago, well, let's do it. Let's give it a go. And I was an executive at another company. We were talking about doing it there. Ended up not really going anywhere. And I decided, and Mark decided, and our third partner, Stephen Levinson, decided, let's just do this as a startup. It's too important to get stuck in the ground in the gears of a larger corporate entity. Let's give it a go as a startup. And so I left my job at the very end of 2019, and that's when we started Municipal. So we launched the business right in the middle of the pandemic, which was, you know, crazy, horrible timing. But in a strange way, um, it also served as kind of a catalyst for what ultimately became our initial growth, because people were sitting at home. They were really experiencing life more than ever in the palm of their hand digitally. If we were can if For those of us that have not completely suppressed what we thought about the beginnings and the emergence of the pandemic, but we launched in the middle of 2020, and kind of the rest is history. People have really, at least of our origin story, people really connected, I think, to our message, our sense of purpose. And of course, when they have bought our products, I think they can see exactly what we're doing, which is we're trying to create a new type of luxury brand that's accessible to many, that brings quality to things that maybe people felt like they didn't have access to luxury level quality, and also bringing incredible performance and comfort and versatility. So it's really been kind of mind blowing how well people have responded to not just the product, but the positive, I guess, message, and more about how we like to inspire people and give people real tools to discover again the best version of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the messaging around the brand is fantastic. The website is great, and the quality is fantastic as well. I got my
We can make
my
anyone look
pullover on
cool,
right now.
and we can make anyone look cool. You are a testament to that right now. I think the first time we met, Johnny, you're like, I'm just a nerdy accountant.
Yeah,
I'm knee deep in accounting. That's what I love. That's what I'm passionate about. And I said, look, Johnny, you can also be cool at the same time. You can redefine what it means to be an accounting professional. You don't have to be nerdy.
that's
You
it.
can be at the same time.
I'm a whole new person right now. I'm a whole new
Right?
person.
Right? You have a spring in your step.
That's
You're
it.
feeling
That's it.
active. You're feeling powerful. That's what we want to do. And that's just because you put it on. Now, once you start engaging with the brand, you can activate your mind and spirit at the same time that you just activated the physical part of you.
That's it. It's like a cape, superhero cape.
Right.
Um,
I'm writing that down. Like that.
Awesome. Well, no, great story. I grew up north of Boston, so Wahlberg was always a bit of a hero for
Local legend. Yeah, local legend,
everybody.
right?
Yeah, I know. I think during high school, I probably watched The Departed about 50 times, along with a lot of his other movies.
And you chose a life of accounting and not a life of crime. That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
You sided with Law and Order after watching The Departed. That's nice.
Yeah. You saw how it ended, so
Good point. Excellent
yep.
point. Excellent point.
Well, all right. So you talked about your prior career, being a golf executive. So how did that experience kind of give you the tools to feel confident hopping into this?
That's probably the thing you mentioned, of confidence is probably the biggest word, because going from something that has a ton of scale and a natural inertia, even though when I started at Callaway, we were in the midst of a turnaround, and Chip Brewer, the CEO, had just started prior to his hiring me. So he had already created a really compelling vision for the turnaround. Even in the throes of something as difficult as a turnaround, there still is a natural inertia, good or bad, with a brand. And certainly in Callaway's case, would have had 95% brand awareness or something in the category. It's crazy. So there was no real introduction to the brand. It was more a repositioning or a reaffirmation of what people already knew and appreciated about it. And as I was saying to someone the other day, like when you're at a startup versus at a big place with a lot of scale, when you're in a big place, you're like, oh, I know someone does that here. I don't know who it is, but someone does that here. So I'm sure everything will be fine, from inventory planning to purchasing to receiving to distribution, all the stuff as a sales and marketing person you don't really even think about all that much. And then when you get to a startup, you've got none of that infrastructure. You have no inertia, no momentum. Of course, you're starting from a baseline of zero. it really does feel like someone put you into a rocket ship and sent you to the farthest places of the galaxy and then dropped you off in some planet all by yourself. And so you really, what you only can rely on at that point is a healthy degree of self-belief. You hope to start to staff your team up with that same exact quality, because you really are trying to think. I'm going to stay with my rocket ship metaphor. You really are trying to think about how can we either grow our community here on this planet that we find ourselves the only ones on, or how do we get off this planet to one that has actual people on it. And so the collaboration, the connectivity, the creating the vision that I just mentioned about putting a plan behind it, and then being flexible enough to find where the opportunities are, because ultimately in a consumer brand, consumers tell you whether you're right or wrong. You don't get to decide that necessarily. Of course, you always think you're going to be right. When you start a new business, Johnny, everyone says this thing's going to be wildly successful. And then as soon as you turn the lights on, then the rubber really does hit the road to see where in a consumer business, where the consumer are going to tell you the opportunity is. So really, really different. I think the parts that are really helpful is kind of having an experience, just by virtue of having been around a while, to know that every problem is sort of solvable, and really understanding which are the ones that are the most important. As we say around here, the ones that are below the water line, the ones that really could sink. And that's a pretty significant challenge at the beginning, because you feel like every problem you face is existential in a startup. And some are and some aren't. But understanding which ones are and which ones aren't, I think is really, really important. And once you kind of have an experience of having done it a little bit, not necessarily startup, but had some career success, you have some self-belief, and you have confidence that the moves you make are going to have a material kind of positive effect on the overall state of the business.
Yeah, I mean, it just must have been a bit alarming at first, going from an institution like Callaway, like you said, $1 billion brand, have somebody that does, everything,
Uh-huh.
one way or another, to, you walk into the office and, you're the janitor, you're the office manager, you're the CEO, you're the inventory manager, you're kind of doing it all. I can just imagine how that must have been pretty eye-opening.
Well, it is. And, leadership to begin with is lonely. Whether you're in a giant place or a small place, it's lonely. But then you compound that with the fact that the startup is so much smaller. It really kind of messes with your mind if you're not careful. And my counsel to folks in that case is don't allow the circumstances to make you become the smallest version of yourself. That's when you really need to challenge yourself to become the more outgoing, more expansive version of yourself, because the number of people that you associate with really on a day-to-day basis operationally goes from, literally, in my case, at a pretty, larger place, hundreds of people down to like one or two. And it's claustrophobic. And it really demands that you really force yourself to continue to activate your outside network, because at the very beginning you're going to feel like no one cares about you. You dropped off the face of the earth, and it really commands that whatever that outgoing part of you is, that you keep that in front and not put that in behind. Because again, like we just were talking about, there's no natural inertia that's going to throw you into those circumstances, like dumb things like the natural inertia I'm talking about. If like, oh, there's a trade show coming up, or we know we have this natural cadence of getting in front of customers, or there's a product development cycle that has us working with a lot of outside vendors during periods of time, you kind of take that stuff for granted. When you're in a large place, in a small place, you have to create that yourself. And it's really, really important again, for the mind, body, and spirit to make that a more conscious thought as often as you can, because the worst thing that can happen, I think, for any founder is to allow the enormity, creating something from scratch, to kind of collapse in on what your natural talents and virtues happen to be.
I'd imagine the brand messaging, it's so strong, it must be kind of become self-fulfilling internally, at a certain point.
Well, yeah, we did it that way too, not by accident. Is the values of municipal really represent the values of the people that are there. So at best, the brand values are no different than the values of the people working there, because there's really no such thing as a brand. It's just the people that are created, the community they build, the engagement they have with the people that are consumers of whatever it is they're doing, whether it's information or in our case information and goods and experience, that we knew kind of from the very beginning we're going to be living the very, very thing that we're trying to tell people, or help demystify for people of what that journey has looked like. And I've thought about that probably every day, Johnny. Is I'm living the same thing here at 50 years old, that we're trying to talk to people that are in their 20s and 30s, that are kind of young professionals, young people that are on the rise. Is that the journey of personal development, it never ends. It never ends. And that constant pursuit of growth, of personal growth, is really critical, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. For Mark and Levin, me, and the rest of the people here, that's really a guiding light for us, because that's the type of thing that we want. We wish the younger versions of ourselves had appreciated. In my case, 25, 30 years ago, really wish I had appreciated that at a real visceral way, but also in a really concrete way, of what personal development, self-improvement, putting together a plan behind your dream, and then putting the work behind it. And I didn't really have that inspiration, I would say, or even the mentoring or the guidance at a really young age, just because of circumstance, to be able to understand and engage on what that recipe really looks like for happiness and success. It wasn't until much, much later, through sort of happenstance and maybe maturity, and also curating my own learning, I started to really put together the pieces of what my own, if personal, kind of operating model was going to be, in order to put myself on a growth trajectory. Personal development. I'm not talking about career growth, although the two things are really, really connected. Yeah. But it wasn't until later. So I'm like, man, if I wish that I could have talked to the 25-year-old version of myself when I was 45, and that getting back to our origin story, that kind of desire is the foundational element of why we're doing this.
Well said. So let's pivot to, the apparel industry in general, right? I mean, there's a lot out there. You have, other large brands, Lululemon, Viore. You have even athletes like Tom Brady making his own brand. How do you stick out, in a sea full of these types of companies?
That begins on day one. So that first day that I was talking about, leaving Callaway, stepping into this new brand, Municipal, all of that early thought was about creating our own lanes and what we do, and not try to do what someone else's does. If we were to start Municipal as being a version of Lululemon, we would get steamrolled. Guess what? They're pretty good at what they do. So we really started to more define what Municipal was beyond just the physical good, because once we had determined what our consumer target was, our vision, our sense of purpose, that put the guardrails on what Municipal was, and is. Then it really, we think we created a lane for ourselves, for our goods and services, and extensions of the brand beyond apparel that kind of had no competition. You always look for that. There are books about that. We've tried to do that. So we don't even really look at ourselves as a competitor to Lululemon. I guess in some categories, maybe there's some overlap. Training for one, like if you're in the gym, and you look at it at a product level, okay, yeah, we think our short outperforms the Lululemon short, but to a consumer, it's kind of brand preference. So we've more focused on what the brand stands for and what our key differentiators are around brand. And of course, we feel like we have the most differentiated product library on the planet Earth that kicks Nike's ass, Adidas's ass, certainly Under Armour's ass, would definitely kick Lululemon's ass. And I'm saying I'm not competing with them, but in a different way beyond just down at the product level. And so the answer to that is, at the end of the day, beginning, middle, and end of the day, we think of ourselves as a content and community brand. And it just so happens the products we make, we think are the best in the world, that bring luxury quality to the people that don't necessarily have access to because they can't afford it, or have access to because they think the brands are too exclusive, but don't have access to luxury quality and the style and ingredient level that we put into our products are certainly inspired by sport performance. They're definitely inspired by sophisticated street style, and at least in apparel and footwear, it's delivering the versatility and comfort that you expect from kind of typical versatile athleisure brands. That's our bullseye. And again, the reason I think it's important for all of us here and for consumers to think of us more about content and community. When I say content, I don't just mean digital content or video content. I'm talking about the full kind of array of touch points and experiences that we create, events, etc. So content is sort of an immersive concept for us. When you think of it that way, and you think of Municipal being a brand that's meant to inspire people to tap into self-belief, to make big things happen for themselves, the people they love in their community, the breadth of where that our brand stretches, we think, start to touch a lot of different categories that fall outside of typical apparel and even footwear. So we have a grooming line that we're launching this year, bringing, again, luxury quality to people who probably just walk into the grocery store and buy crappy stuff that they're putting on their body. And we feel like we have a differentiated, fantastic product that is part of an overall system. Again, Johnny, you said it right at the beginning, to make you feel like a Superman to go and tackle the day. Where if you think about those lanes that we were describing, I don't think Lululemon would have a grooming line, or if they did, I wouldn't even know what that would be. So we, via partnerships and stuff that we're doing, we're really trying to, I think maybe you're starting to really see, oh yeah, that they are kind of advancing this brand forward in the same way that kind of really successful luxury brands do. And that's exactly what we're doing, but we're doing it in a different way for a segment of people that don't necessarily have luxury brands talking to them.
Yeah, it seems like you're just creating much deeper alignment with your consumers, that it just goes far beyond, these sweatpants, these joggers are more comfortable. Like it's just way more than that, which is pretty cool and a great lane to be in.
That's our ideal.
Yeah.
Do we do it all the time? I'd love to say yes. I know that it's really hard, and we're small. Again, we're only 4 years old. So that's the goal. What you just described is to kind of be roaring on all cylinders. And when people think of Municipal, they think of us as part of their life and the journey that they're on, again, to make big things happen for themselves, people they love, in their community.
So let's put the
and look cool, and you can be comfortable doing it, right?
yeah, I mean, the products are great. I've been wearing this pullover for the last like 3 weeks since it arrived at my door.
We make it in like 3 colors. I'll send you some more so you don't have to wear the same one all the time.
Thanks, Harry. All right, so let's turn the spotlight on you. You know, being a founder, being a CEO, I like to ask often, you know, what's been, you know, the biggest challenge balancing this and your personal life, you know, being a husband, you know, having a family. How do you do it all?
Well, there's no such thing as work-life balance. I think, but that's not a bad thing. And I think once you break down, I think the misconception of what the kind of ideal work-life balance means. When you are a founder, it's immersive, and you don't stop being a founder, and you don't stop being the ultimate leader of your thing when you walk out the door at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever. In a strange way, Johnny, it's been very liberating, because once you kind of realize that you have there's a harmony that exists, and a synergy with the the personal part, the family part of really having the my personal part and the life part of the work life trade-off, perceived trade-off, being as engaged in what municipal is all about in their own way, then it's sort of works seamlessly. And that's a lot of theoretical I just dropped on you, but I'll give you an example. So for my I have 2 teenage daughters. For my 15-year-old, at least, having her kind of appreciate what we're doing, and appreciating this is what dad's working on. These are the cool people, asking her stuff about products, things we're doing. What's your opinion? I'm constantly walking in, I wear obviously everything we make, from prototypes. I'm wearing a pair of prototype shoes right now. I'll ask her, what do you think of these shoes? What do you think of this color? Having her really get engaged with it, so that when she sees me on occasion, engaged with work in times when you typically wouldn't want to be, she doesn't resent that. And I don't resent it. But I think that embracing the fact that there is no wall, there is no fence that exists between work and the rest of my life, has been kind of liberating, like I said, because I've gotten to design my own schedule. I don't have to fall into a typical corporate template. And it's funny, my partners, Mark and Lev, really were the ones that encouraged me to do that from day one, which is, you can work wherever you want, whenever you want. And if you don't want to be sitting at your desk at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you just leave, go somewhere, go do something. As long as you're available, as long as your team knows that you're responsive and again, available, you can there's no reason to stick to a 9 to 5. Changes that the pandemic forced everyone to look at what work styles were coincided with that. And so getting back to embracing it, I've had more family sit down dinners in the last 5 years as a founder and something that's immersive than I did probably in the previous 20 combined, having a typical corporate role. And to not be allow myself to not be feel guilty about that, and to let the team know, if I don't have anything that's a meeting after 3 o'clock, I'm not going to sit here in my office till 5, till a theoretical whistle blows and I get to go home. I'm just going to go home, and I'll continue to do what I do at home. I really don't ever think about work-life balance. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's a little intense when there's travel involved. That part, yeah, definitely, because you feel like, it's a lot different sleeping in a hotel than it is at home. And I really relate to the real road warriors that are out there, that are on the road all the time. That part's really hard. I have no advice for them. on that. Fortunately, I'm the most kind of travel I do is 2 or 3 days, and then I get to come home. I'm not gone for weeks at a time. But again, I've really embraced the fact that I've gotten to design my own kind of work schedule and then allow the team here to do the same for themselves. Um, and I think it's led to a lot more happiness and contentment for the people that work here. And I certainly have lived that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, and it just must be refreshing after doing, 2 decades in that corporate structure.
On the wheel, on the gerbil wheel. Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. There's all that stuff, all the BS that you hope, you hope will, not be the case where you are, but like FaceTime, I don't mean FaceTime on the thing, but I just mean, oh, I need to put in my FaceTime with the boss.
yeah,
It's like,
you
no,
can't
don't
leave
think
till
of it
someone
as
else
that.
leaves. Yeah,
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 think of that. Just think of it more broadly as connection.
yeah.
I need to make sure I'm connected with my boss. I'm connected with my peers because that's how innovation happens, and that's how you form the relationships that build trust and help create best solutions. But think of it more of connection and not like FaceTime or time and space. As long as you're connected, you can do that anywhere.
Yeah, no more punching the clock and going down the dinosaur, and
Exactly.
that,
I had the same Fred Flintstone thought, but I wasn't going to do it because I thought that would age me. But you went right there. It's great, and you're quite a bit younger than I am, so I'm glad you did that.
yeah, same page. All
Mhm.
right. So you talked about the grooming kit, the grooming line. What else can we expect from Municipal in 2024, whether that's products, exposure, larger footprint, what should everybody look out for?
All of the above in a rapidly scaling business. We're sort of pushing it in all directions from new products, new categories. You talked about grooming line. We're expanding our footwear category. We're launching our own experiential retail this summer. Our first one will be right here in where we're headquartered in North San Diego County. And I think that's really going to blow people's minds because it's going to be so far beyond what they would expect from a brand like ours. When you walk in, we have a grooming station. There's a little mini barbershop inside. So you can get your hair cut. You can get groomed if you want. We're going to do $10 haircuts on Fridays for high school athletes to have to come get their haircut for the game that weekend. We have a partnership with Earth Cafe, which is one of the coolest coffee and cafe concepts here in Southern California, expanded. So there's a Earth Cafe, a municipal Earth Cafe inside our experiential retail. There's a clubhouse hangout where you can just come hang out, stay for hours if you want, get your work done, be around other people that are on that path to make big things happen. 6,000 square feet right in North San Diego County. Our headquarters will be attached to the back of it. So we're working on that. We think there'll be 35 to 50 of those in the United States. We have a gym concept we're working on with a local partner called EOS. If you know that gym, they have 200 gyms around the country. We're going to do the municipal version of the gym. It'll be the gym equivalent of what I just described. So if you ever imagine going into a really cool college or professional sports team's weight room or locker room, that's the concept that we're bringing to the people. That you'll have fitness, recovery, hangout, coffee shop, the whole 9 yards, and a real kind of premium experience. And our first one of those is opening up in Las Vegas towards the end of this year. So we got a lot going on, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, you're creating a lifestyle, which is just exciting. Going to be really cool. And I'd imagine Mark will be at the gym at whatever time it opens.
Gonna open at 4 a.m.
That's
when
right?
he's in there. So if you want to come in at 4 a.m. and work out with Mark, by all means. I will choose to go a little later than that.
Yeah. I'm a little later as well.
Yeah, I'm softer than him, and I'm not afraid to admit that.
Awesome. All right. Well, Harry, we finish every podcast with some San Diego favorites. I know, you've been in San Diego for quite a bit, so going to put you on the spot, get some things on the record. All right. Favorite beach?
I mean, I live in Carlsbad, so the Carlsbad beach is amazing. Why get in the car and drive down to La Jolla or Encinitas when it's right here?
It's perfect. Taco shop. This is controversial, I'm sure.
It is. And I'll tell you why it's controversial for me, because I'm one of those weird people that is not like the biggest taco person in the world. I love to eat them with my daughter, because if you ask my daughter, my 15-year-old, every night, what do you want for dinner? She's going to say tacos every single night. So I would defer to expertise there. Used to go to Las Olas quite a bit, but the real taco aficionados would say Las Olas. That's so commercial. So I'll have to defer to expertise on that one.
Yeah, you got to be careful around here when you talk about taco shops. All right, what about you have your kids, you're married, place to unwind. You got to go blow off steam. Where do you head in San Diego?
No place like home. Yeah. I don't leave home. I'm kind of a homebody, but I also am a very avid golfer. So you find me on the golf course usually at least a couple times a month. And then my kids and I now, like I just mentioned Carlsbad, we love Carlsbad Village, South Oceanside, like the whole redevelopment. That's where our office retail is going to be. So we got to pick exactly where we wanted it to be. But I just love like having been a resident here for 15 years, I love what's happening because it's redeveloping in a cool way that doesn't seem out of place for what the community is all about. So we love to just walk around Carlsbad Village, go grab lunch, go up to the Strawberry Shack, get some strawberry yogurt, and kill a couple hours off.
Yeah, it's really great, the redevelopment. It's definitely beautiful, good for the community. And you mentioned golf, so this wasn't on my question list, but who's better, you or Mark?
Good question. Well, if we played, I'm going to give a nuanced answer. If we played stroke play, I would beat Mark. If we played match play, Mark would beat me because Mark makes a lot of birdies, but he also hits it so far that sometimes that can go offline.
Yeah.
So he makes some big numbers. I don't make very many big numbers, but he makes a lot of birdies. So if it's match play, Mark's beating me. If it's a stroke play, I'm probably beating him.
Sounds like you're a good scramble team.
We would be a good scramble team, definitely.
Awesome. Well, Harry, this has been a great time. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for telling us more about Municipal, and best of luck in 2024.
Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.